up here now with between these two teams. Actually, no. You
You're
talk
just
about
kidding.
One Shot. You talk
Just
about
kidding.
them right now.
Yeah.
Ignore West Garfield.
Yeah,
Let's give
because-
them some love.
Because I'm on the left and One Shot's on the left, and therefore we're going to talk about the team on the left, which is indeed One Shot because that's my team. One Shot. I already know what the highlight player is going to be. It's probably going to say Swaylin, isn't it? Swaylin's okay. Let's stop talking about Swaylin. You know who's also doing really well? Kilo. I actually really like what I'm seeing out of Kilo in terms of his flexibility, and perhaps he could be IGLing these guys better, though. I gotta say, Forceful is not here on this segment. There, wow, it changed on the fly like that. Forceful made a good point yesterday. We were watching in the green room. It's One Shot has this tendency maybe not to play together as well as they could on the roams. It's been a consistent issue going back on the roam clears rather. It's been a consistent issue going back a couple games now, and going against West Garfield Park, who has a snake.bds and who has barring. They've got to get it together or they're going to have a hell of a time punching those guys down. That's for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about West Garfield Park because you know what? We're going to spend the early half of this day talking a lot about One Shot as they have back-to-back matches. Connor, fill us in again on West Garfield Park. This team has been so exciting this stage.
Yeah, they started off really slow, and they were one of the teams that you look at them on paper and you're like, yeah, they shouldn't be bad. And then it's like, oh, they were in relegation stocks. Now they're going into top 3 after some pretty good results against some pretty dang good teams. And this matchup is going to be kind of no different, especially going up against a roster like One Shot. It's not going to be easy, but when you got the shooters on the side of West Garfield, you got Snake, and you already talked about barring as well, CJ. But we can't forget about Twist. Twist actually had a phenomenal game yesterday, kind of popping off and finally doing what we've seen out of him in stuff like SI Quals, where Drip Boolin was leading him through the charges, and we're saying, yeah, Twist is a pretty dang good player. So with this team, they're explosive, they're fun to watch, and you kind of can never let your guard down against them.
Yeah, 5 in a row right now, trying to make it 6. But let's jump back now to One Shot. Let's quickly talk about them because, like I said, we're going to be talking a lot about One Shot over the next 2 hours or so.
Right. Well, as I said, talked about yesterday and how they struggle with roam clears. Psychosis is running around, hitting drive-bys, aiming sideways. We've got Afer doing the same thing. Connor, tell me I'm wrong. Slap me and call me wrong if I'm wrong. But I think West Garfield will have that same energy. Snake's going to run around with a no-grip Malusi MP5, and he's going to cause problems, isn't he?
I still want to slap you, but I do believe that you're correct.
I'm right here.
There's lots of other
right
reasons to slap you. There's lots of reasons to slap you. This isn't one of them.
Yeah, This is definitely not one of them because with West Garfield, they are, like you said, a more chaotic team. They're hard to pin down, and to say athleticism for players, you've got Snake is one of the most athletic players in CL. He's just flying all over the map. And he actually has good reads. You can almost say, like, if you look at it on a surface level, it's like, oh, he's just running around. But his overall positioning is very good, and he reads into where attacks are coming from quite well, which means he's very hard to pin down as a roamer, which was one of the issues that we saw yesterday early on with the one-shot attacks.
Right. You look at Traditioning Chaos, right? There's a round. You tweeted it out, Connor, where Snake jumped off the roof and then jumped into attic after it seemed like Snake was forcing a lot of plays, right? Since the attacking role change, it seems like we've seen a lot less of that on the attack side of things. It's actually opened up a lot of opportunities for the likes. We talked about Twist, how he's playing a lot better. Barring's playing, I thought he was playing incredible. He only went like 8 for 7 yesterday, Terps Kitty, but he was hitting stinkers. Looked a lot more comfortable.
Only.
Exactly, impact. They look a lot more comfortable overall. And of course, on the other side of things, comfort is important in our analysis, isn't it? Play loose, activating fraggers. That's what West Garfield needs to do, isn't that so?
Yep, because they have 4 fraggers. The fact that Valor is playing on like a pseudo support kind of role, sometimes flank watch, sometimes second hard breach, is already crazy enough. Because with Valor, if we go all the way back a year ago, stage 1, the OG Aqualix with Levron and Sod, he was the only shining light on that entire team. He was dropping 20 bombs every game to get like 7-2'd, which was very, very tragic. But he's a fragger through and through, but he's even the one like the quote unquote less fraggy of the fraggers. And when you kind of get everybody all loose and kind of on the overall reads, with the philosophy of bio being kind of overall setting a net over what they want to do and then really making the micro adjustments as they go, really utilizing attacker repick to their advantage on their attacks, just let it go nice and flowy where they can just push wherever they want. They can make these micro plays that they've been shot calling and have looked really good.
But Cookies, what is this about avoid bank? Why is that?
I was about to say, I highly disagree with this point that CDAPS wrote, because I think Biologic, in the time since they last played bank, they have hit training in the hyperbolic timetable, and they have become Super Saiyans. And I am sure that in the event, they need to return to a map they previously looked poor on prior to the rule change. They will be biblical.
Well, I want to see
agree.
here. I want to see the difference between the two of you. Connor says we don't want bank. Cookie says we do want bank. I think it's time to find out what the teams want. Connor, continue your point though.
I was going to say, like, with the bank, this is a team in West Garfield Park that gave the Heist their only point. And guess what map that was on? That was on bank. Sure, it was pre-roll change, but even in the other time that West Garfield played bank, it was a 7-3 defeat pretty handily to Aerial Arise. So, with how strong One Shot looked on bank, that was my full ideas. That was my thought process of, hey, One Shot probably should have won all 6 of their defenses. They should have closed this out like 7-1, 7-2 against an Aqualix team, who is just kind of a worse version of West Garfield Park. So, but hey, maybe they hit the hyperbolic time chamber like you were saying, because bank is still up right now.
It sure is. All these bans are very sensible, and I could go on a 30-minute rant on why each ban is sensible. I'm going to focus on these final 3. Seems like One Shot's been banning Sky a lot. So it's not the new map we're going to. We actually had all 3 of the new maps at the end. And bank. One Shot. And I actually, since we're just disagreeing today, Connor, I want to disagree that you think One Shot had a great bank yesterday. I think there were some defensively they played good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the attack, there were definitely some pickles.
Okay, but
there were definitely some pickles.
To nitpick on your point, you're saying
to be
that
quintessential?
we can't take the data. We can't take the data from pre-roll change West Garfield Park. However, we can also then exclude the data of the pre-timeout One Shot on their attack, because they took a timeout and then won the rest of them.
I don't care. Bio's winning today.
You know what? I'm gonna switch my vote to West
today.
Garfield Park. I can't go against like the 5 in a row streak. They are hot right now, and it's not just hot. Like Cookies, maybe you can attest to this more. They just seem to be getting better even during that win streak. They seem to be finding their groove together.
Like I said, it's not really a Snake carry show anymore. Obviously, Snake still has a good rating. He still drops good numbers. But it's not like Snake is the only reason they're winning rounds. It's for like early season. The reason they felt like relegation material is because everyone else was looking the Mickey and Snake was looking like the best player in the league, and that was it. Now it's a good team overall. And like I said, I think Bio is a guy, he's always in the league. I think he's going to have this team turned around on bank. I believe that with all my heart and soul. I put my predictions on it.
Well,
and that
Connor,
means I'm serious.
I know I'm playing a what if scenario because we are going to bank. We know we're going to bank. What map in your mind would you have liked to see West Garfield angle it towards, if not bank?
I think that they could have potentially leveraged a villa. Pretty much there was a big, like, you have the Venn diagrams of maps. You got One Shot maps and West Garfield maps. It's more of a, in the Venn diagram, the middle section is bigger than everybody else's because you have like the theme park on the side of One Shot that they played once and were not horrible on, not too bad, as well as the cafe definitely leans towards the side of One Shot. But then every other map that West Garfield had played so far, your villas, your clubs, your organs, One Shot do play and feel comfortable on. I think that they could have leveraged that. Maybe a bit of an equalizer map where you can really kind of boil things down to simple gunfights, which you could potentially give the edge towards the side of West Garfield Park for. However, on this map of bank, I did like what I saw out of One Shot, and I'm more than happy to be incorrect because, CJ, your point of them completely revitalizing their bank for the side of West Garfield is very valid and could very well have happened. considering that they were comfortable enough to go to this map. I'm going to go stick to the known quantities on one shot.
Well, I think it would be no one's surprise. As much as we have our difference of who's going to end it, we could definitely see this one go to overtime, but we're going to get to it right now. We are going to bank one shot taking on West Garfield Park.
Hello, everybody, and, well, specifically hello from John and I. This is our first cast back from the between the Easter break, but it might be new for us, but we've got on Playday number 2 of this weekend, and John, we actually have a repeat map between One Shot and West Garfield Park, at least for One Shot from yesterday. Does that mean they could switch things up in time, or do you think they're just going to run things back?
Now, I'm not too sure because, especially for One Shot with them just playing on this map, that does give a lot of information for West Garfield Park going into this best of one. And with West Garfield Park and Oculix having a lot of similarities in playstyle, that actually could give the upper hand to West Garfield, especially since they have gone through a lot of changes in these past couple of weeks. So this really could be a very close game between the two teams, if not just both teams having a very one-sided matchup. I know that Cookies talked about that entry for West Garfield Park or for Oculix a lot on the last best of one, and I feel like that ties into West Garfield once again. So it's going to really depend on that adaptability and how well both teams can play, especially on the attack.
Well, One Shot will start out running things back with their attacking ban. Banned Nook yesterday against Oculix. They'll do the same thing here against West Garfield, and it is actually the exact same ban phase we had from their game against Oculix yesterday. Though they banned the Mira instead of the Valkyrie, West Garfield Park did them a favor on that one. So One Shot, if we're talking about how much difference we might see between yesterday's game and today, they won't be facing many different operators off the board going into this one. Oh, and Swaylin unfortunately crashed, so...
Off the bat. Well, it happens. Yeah, love to see it. But at least we have all the bans the same. We know that we are going to be heading into lockers and CCTV with a relatively normal lineup. We've got West Garfield Park rocking for the buck pick. That way they can have a little bit of vertical play if they want to go for a full top to bottom clear, expecting that full roam extension. And the rest of their operators are still looking quite nice. And again, with having Thatcher on the board as well, that's going to help with the very heavy util spam that you tend to see a lot on that basement site. So I really like the lineup here by West Garfield. And for the defensive stack by One Shot as well, they still have plenty of denial, plenty of stall potential, and that roam game, of course, can still thrive, especially since the last operator that is currently left, because that disconnect, was actually the Alibi, who is just a great gunner overall.
That is true. The One Shot yesterday did focus a lot more on the site. They might have sent one or two roamers out, but it was nothing near the likes of, say, Oculix or what West Garfield Park might bring out, depending on what playstyle they want to opt for on their defense, how they've changed things up since, of course, they switched roles between now and the last time they played Bank. But for One Shot, based on the lineup we're seeing, and it being Swaylin, who's the only X factor in their lineup so far, who tends to lean a bit more towards the support on the site when he can, but of course he can get aggressive if need be. I would not be surprised if One Shot play this defense, especially the basement defense, like how they did yesterday. Just having somebody maybe play behind the server rack, or specifically play on those server stairs, trying to play up aggressively. That was a Warden yesterday, if I do recall correctly. I don't think we'll see them change it up too much. And for West Garfield, that'll be certainly nice. We won't see them get stalled up on the full clear, since, well, they'll know there isn't really a roam to clear. They can start getting some quick work on the site, but it looks like we might be having a rehost to get back in the lobby. Of course, nothing officially called yet, but Soylent is not back in, and might just have to hold on for a little bit longer.
Little technical timeout never hurt anybody, I suppose. Better to get it out of the way at the very beginning of the match than towards the end when we've got a real story to tell between both One Shot and also West Garfield. One thing to note is one major issue that could potentially lie in here for One Shot is if having that light roam game, if they might not have enough, plant denial utility, if they don't have that echo, if they also don't have that dechonk in case they don't, change off anything moving into that first round, that could be a slight issue. Again, having that lighter roam, it does allow West Garfield being aware of that. They could just be incredibly fast and already begin to hit the site, especially if no one plays directly inside of blue. But I could imagine with both a Jaeger, Wamai, and a smoke, someone's going to be in there. So there's still that one key choke point that West Garfield most likely have to deal with, unless they want to change their strat and maybe adapt by, heading in towards the back part of the map, like going in through main stairs and garage, and also opening up those back hatches leading in through both vault and elevator, perhaps.
Well, unfortunately, we will have to send it to a quick break while we try and get Swaylin back in the lobby and the lobby itself remade. So do not go anywhere. We'll have One Shot versus West Garfield Park back in just a few minutes. Thankfully for all of us, that one was not nearly as long as it could have been, and we can finally get back into the first round. And what do you know, John? I mentioned this, that we saw it in the lineup yesterday. We will have that Warden that we saw playing server stairs come through, so that X factor of Swaylin is actually answered for if you watch their game against Aqualix today. So glad to see that I was vindicated in that prediction.
And that's especially helpful, especially when you want to go for more of like that anchor kind of style. You can have the smokes to kind of deny that plant. So if West Garfield take a little bit too long to actually clear out that player inside of blue, you still have something to fall back on. You still have something really strong to hold for that anchor game and that plant stall. So pretty good idea by One Shot to say the least, especially since they're probably not going to have too much of an emphasis on that roam game early on.
And we'll see Subarctic just reinforcing some of those hatches, making good spots of those Electric Claws that go on. Of course, since this is the same ban phase as yesterday, that does mean, the game between One Shot and Aqualix, it does mean that Thatcher is on the board, and West Garfield will not waste a single round before bringing the MP grenades to try to expedite their clear, which of course it could be used for the hatches if you want to use those thermite charges or those hard reach charges you have in Twist Pocket to open them up. You could certainly do that, or you could dedicate an EMP or two to clearing out this utility on blue stairs, disabling those magnets and those ADSs to make nading Swaylin that much easier.
I think the main issue here for West Garfield that could lie in would just more or less be that utility consumption and just the timing of that. Their general time management should be fine, but if they struggle a lot with clearing out blue or clearing out Subarctic as well over and near Marble Stairs, that could end up lying into a huge issue. The first frag actually going to favor One Shot. Subarctic will land that clean shot, and one of your only few sets of grenades is already gone, but barring nets a huge kill. Kilo's gone. That's one of your only sets of actual plant denial already dead, also near Marble Stairs, Carter.
Yeah, bad note to start on for West Garfield, losing the player who by far and away has been the most successful on the entry game, the most successful in the early round, but barring able to creep down those stairs and trade it out, not on the sub, but taking down the smoke, you make a bad situation and somehow take something a lot better from it. Subarctic flirting with death there will instead back off around the corner, let Barring have his dominion over Marble Stairs, allow it to continue, and meanwhile the West Garfield Park as a whole are pretty much unstoppable at the moment on their clear through this middle floor, able to open up most of these hatches, gain quite a bit of map control thanks to Barring, looking in a very good spot, and we're not even half the round gone. Well,
there's the second kill for Subarctic. Must have been the caster curse at the final moment there. He is very low in HP, but still alive to at least potentially waste even more time and resources over near the bottom of Marble. Maybe break a couple of drones as well to weaken that information game for the rest of West Garfield Park. Looks like we actually might have that vault push I was hinting at earlier, just to ignore that entire presence over near the backside of Blue Stairs, but it looks like One Shot, they've adjusted currently to actually play into that position quite well for the final minute 10, and with them having that slight man advantage, this actually could be a slight lead up for them going into the final minute.
And they have a lot of very nice angles at their disposal. Losing Swaylin, of course, is unfortunate, as Twist playing above that hatch is able to catch the Warden rotating back in the site. Though Swaylin was a little isolated from the rest of the clear, the three core defenders you need to rely on to stop the push West Garfield are going for are still alive and well, though Subarctic is certainly a little worse for wear, just one bullet away from death, and Bio will drop down to chase not the Jaeger, but the Cade, who retreated back into gold. He falls thanks to Twist joining Biologic on this push, but NVK quickly fills the gap in this position. Moving forward, he can likely hear the attackers creeping around the corner. That'll leave Sub alone right now as NVK tries to work the back line. The Jaeger will slowly move forward with no hole in the wall to watch, though. Biologic is just out of sight. This bomb can go down successfully, and Valor also there to watch, but NVK shuts him down. Twist a bit distracted right now. Sub can take them down, and boom! All shots line up. A triple for Sub, and NVK going huge. One shot, clutch out the first one.
And that was just fantastic team play by both NVK and One Shot towards the final 30 seconds, Carter. They had crossfires established. They were playing off each other's contact and just being trapped inside that hotbox, essentially, of lockers. There really wasn't much that West Garfield Park could do once that plant went down. That was, although a close call, once it turned into that 3 versus 2 favoring West Garfield, it didn't really matter because, again, One Shot, they were just in the better positions overall to make sure they could just guarantee those last couple of kills and get the defuse down with no strings attached.
Yeah, overall, NVK just able to slip into that position, take over where the Cade was playing, and West Garfield Park going for their take. They decided to focus on getting the bomb down. A perfectly fine course of action. Unfortunately, since Twist is inside the site, Valor can only cover one angle if he can. overall, as you said, just great play by One Shot to start out in the first round. Also able to take down Snake early on too. Sure, Sub had to retreat back pretty quickly, and maybe Snake was getting a little over aggressive, but either way, just overall a solid start for One Shot, both in terms of how that round began and how this game has began. Open area will be the next site for One Shot, and we'll see a couple changes that indicate maybe an overall shift in One Shot's mindset. See Kilo move to the Oryx, definitely allowing for a lot more aggressive off-site play, whether it be horizontal or vertical, whatever he wants to go for. It's the nice thing about Oryx. Just open up a hatch, you can change a horizontal extension to something from the vertical very quick.
And both that vertical and horizontal roam game is almost a requirement on almost every site when playing on bank, especially open area. A lot of the vertical game can be quite punishing, and that's just something you need to try to stall for a lot of time. But the one nice thing about open area in comparison to tellers is that it can be much easier just to extend into the rooms directly across from the actual site itself, and that can also allow you to burn even more time. And especially if you kill somebody who would normally be on that vertical roll, like a Sledge or a Buck, for example, that could pay dividends throughout the entire round. But shockingly enough, for West Garfield, they didn't have a repick over in onto either one of those vertical players that I had mentioned. They only have breaching charges and those explosive lifelines on the operator of Twist, so even if they go and clear out this top floor successfully, they're not going to really bear any fruit besides maybe just forcing back the defense and finding a kill here and there.
Yeah, still, if they're able to clear out those roamers, that could be very nice. Snake on a solo entry right now. Spots one in the archives, doesn't pull the trigger, and NVK can't react in time. Excellent play by Snake, isolating that down and gaining a key position just around the site. Slippery watching Banana, the complete opposite angle from where the attack ends up coming from. 2 kills suddenly fly the way of West Garfield in the first minute and 15 seconds. Now, the only one left on this top floor is Subarctic, holding down inside of stock, but he's got a hatch open next to him, and he'll probably retreat back very soon.
And for the most part, as long as West Garfield are aware of the fallback that eventually has to happen by One Shot, they could probably more or less just hit the site in a matter of moments. They've already cleared out a majority of that lurk game on that first floor, and with them kind of just ignoring the top floor, there isn't really much that One Shot can do except maybe land a couple of pop shots over near Square, for example, and eventually have to go and move down a floor lower. Kilo, still playing next to Elevator, has a long angle, gets rid of barring. That's a huge kill, at least, for the Oryx, but still, that slight advantage favoring West Garfield, and now they're just about ready to go for that full setup, trying to open up that triple wall with the exothermic, but they still need to be wary of Subarctic as he's actually in that power position I mentioned earlier at the top of Square and is looking to find that kill, and it's clean. 3-on-3 now.
Big play by Subarctic right there. That's your hard breacher gone. You might have 2 can openers in the back pocket of Valor, but he's not going to be able to open up nearly as much as Biologic would have, and now you're fully worried and fully committed to the idea that Subarctic could start tangling with Twist or Snake, and that's going to take a lot of your attention away from getting down this execute in what is now even man count, even between these two teams at 3 versus 3. Swaylin also has the utility to stall out the site for a little bit longer, though his final smoke canister is sent out, choking out the rotate hole inside of small office, but Subarctic has moved up top on that hatch to watch this very entry point. Will anybody from West Garfield bite? Not looking so. Though Twist vaults back in, he might decide to sneak on through that rotate once the smoke canister goes away. They know Subarctic's right there. Know he's up above. Valor will try to tangle with him, but they got to cut their losses, move on in. With only 5 seconds left, Snake and Twist both fall, and it's not looking like Valor will get much than this 1 extra kill. Subarctic, another big round from him, both in terms of the amount of kills he got and the importance of the position he played.
Fantastic opening, at least for West Garfield, but then they just got a bit too focused over in on the first floor. I talked about those cutoff angles that West Garfield Park could have established, yet they only had those positions located over near, for example, archives/tellers, and even then they were still struggling here and there against the Oryx, for example, and they were just only focusing towards that final minute to just get that triple wall opened on up. They received a flank by the Lamai, of course, and then it forced West Garfield just to kind of multitask with such little time. It was just not a good story for them, to say the least. 2-0 now for One Shot as they now try to at least attempt to hold out this top floor, moving in on CEO.
And this could be a good time for West Garfield Park to start getting some attacks on the board. Bank 10 still leaning a little bit attacker-sided, but with the prowess that One Shot demonstrated on the defensive half yesterday against Aqualix, albeit thanks in no small part to a couple mistakes made by Aqualix throughout, but still their defenses overall were quite strong. On CEO, West Garfield have that opportunity to get one. All they need to do, open up some of those square walls, get some players on rappel, able to fend off any aggression the defense throws at them, and once they burn out some utility on the site, if you're able to get the bomb down, that's pretty much the round win at that point. This is one of the hardest retakes for the defense to land in the game, and if West Garfield can't succeed here, might be a bit worrisome going into their next 3 rounds.
Looks like for West Garfield, they're going to opt to go more and through the lobby side, maybe get that back wall all the way opened up just to have that long kill angle through the back hallway, and then, like you mentioned earlier, play for that window pressure as well, as it can be quite annoying to have to deal with this throughout the entire round, especially when those window players are rocking 100 plus bullet weapons of both the Finka and Zofia LMGs, just waiting for someone to overextend a smidge, be met by that gun barrel and just find some sort of opening kill once again for West Garfield. It's not a bad idea at all. They just need to make sure they still have a plethora of utility to make sure they deal with people such as MVK playing near that Kanto spot.
Yeah, he's got a long angle right now looking over towards that main door, but he's just got to hold out. No point in throwing away your life in the first minute, especially with how well West Garfield with how well they've tried to get aggressive. Of course, first round didn't end up working out as well. They lost Snake. Now they have some drones inside of the site, and with Snake on this rappel, might not be the gunplay that does it, but a well-placed nade could net a kill. Unfortunately, the ADS is a bit too strong right now. I believe that's either 2 or 3 on that window. It's a little bit hard for me to see. Got to squint to see. But Snake's able to burn the rest of those ADSs, not with some nades, but hopefully with some of his teammates' utility. Maybe the couple flashes Bio has, but beyond that, really not that much in the pocket for West Garfield to try to burn those. Another nade goes through, does a little damage to Slip, but so far, in the first minute and a half, West Garfield not finding nearly as much ground as they even have in the past 2 rounds.
Last round, I mentioned the tunnel vision effect we saw by West Garfield last time they were going in for a more clear kind of approach. We still have actually the player of Kilo playing underneath with the shotgun and a nitro cell that could be a fantastic way to stop a plant from going down if need be and still have that vertical destruction as well, just to find even more damage against West Garfield. So again, if they just only focus on this site pressure for the final 50 seconds, they could be in deep trouble once they begin to try to enter out and still have to worry about their horizontal and also vertical pressure, Carter.
Yeah, West Garfield are just trying to probe for a pick right now, and One Shot are not giving them a single opportunity. The only one even giving them an inkling has been NVK all the way on top of main stairs, and even then, he's played very reserved for that position. Now, finally, after 2.5 minutes, West Garfield make the long march up marble stairs, but NVK blinded, could still hold out with thanks to Slippery, though it's 1 for 1, make not 2 for 1. For West Garfield, thankfully for One Shot, as NVK finally starts getting active in his position. Been waiting for the attack to start moving in. He's fed 2 kills, and with Snake inside of the site, he's not finding much. Kilo takes him down on a long angle. Twist repels in to try and save this round, try and get their first win on the board, and he's in the middle of a slaughter from One Shot. 3 rounds in a row, looking indomitable on the defense, just as much as they did yesterday.
And that was just such a sluggish approach by West Garfield, just self-stalling. They didn't move past ATM until the final 40 seconds to walk up gold stairs and try to apply any serious pressure. Their window players weren't able to do pretty much anything throughout that entire round, and all that One Shot had to do was just play for trades, almost like what they did on round 1 during the actual post-plant position, playing for contact, guaranteeing if somebody dies, they've got backup almost immediately, if not at the exact same time, and it was just smooth sailing for One Shot because they knew there were only 2 places that West Garfield could actually approach from, one of those being the window repels, which it wasn't really likely they would end up hopping on in. That's a very high gamble that West Garfield would take. And those gold stairs, which again, you can just apply multiple crossfires and just wait for West Garfield to come to you, which eventually they were forced to at a bad position.
Now 3 rounds gone for West Garfield. We'll see how they adapt to the defense One Shot put in front of them. They're not changing it up too much, bringing the same 5 operators as before. And to be fair to them here, the early round was very much their game. They're able to push down Marble quickly, take down they lost Snake, but they were able to take down Kilo afterwards, excuse me. And overall, able to take a lot of that map control on the middle floor, open up those hatches very quickly. It was then transitioning down towards the site that they started to lose the plot. NVK was able to reposition after a kill and throw everything out of whack for West Garfield. But this was the strongest round so far that they've had, so if they're even able to replicate some of the steps they had before, they'll be in a good position.
Again, seems like we're not going to have any emphasis on the roam game, just that slight lurk by Subarctic. He can play near marble. If he needs to move a little bit deeper and towards the actual site, he can do that with relative ease. So because of that, again, West Garfield, time management, it's not going to be a struggle. It's just finding those kills along the way, especially over near blue stairs potentially as well. I think one of the slight reasons why we had West Garfield not even try to attempt moving in through blue was because they just didn't really have a lot of grenades, despite the fact they were running EMPs to remove basically every piece of utility that would be set up near blue. They just kind of wanted to avoid that spot like the plague, not even try to risk losing any life against that Mossberg potential in the hands of the Warden. And it looks like for now, West Garfield Park will continue to just kind of avoid that position for a bit longer, as they're still just trying to focus over near marble and also the open area position itself just to go for the hatch play.
Well, they don't have that opening provided to them like they did before, or at least the opportunity to mitigate the initial bit of damage. So what will they do here? Bio creeping over to server. He'll put one exothermic down over here. Potentially, maybe. Baiting out some play from Swaylin. Not an intention, but maybe an effect. No, Swaylin will not get over-aggressive. That's one thing you can say about One Shot so far in this past couple days. They have not gotten over-aggressive in their positions, at least enough to indicate a troublesome pattern. West Garfield had the map control they did before, but in a 5v5, this is where they've struggled in the past few rounds.
Seems like they still have everything in check, just waiting for the almost perfect moment to go and actually push out Swaylin here on the Warden pick, even droning out NVK, so he'll have to fall back, almost guaranteeing that Swaylin is going to die in this position, but only a minute to kill. If he can waste about 20, if not even 30 seconds here, just playing next to blue and maybe even finding a kill as well, this could be gigantic for One Shot just to continue to stall West Garfield.
Another nade coming on in. Ooh, but Swaylin peeks right at the right time. He might lose his life, but he's able to take Barring down just before that. One of the main players who's been able to get aggressive so far in West Garfield in the late round now shut down. Valor and Snake will both take up this emptied position inside of server, but they still have to worry about the even man count. 4v4. One Shot have played these trades so well in the late round through rounds 1, 2, and 3, and now they're provided the same opportunity to do so. Nade goes through, both caught by magnets. Snake now left to use the LMG, and the LMG alone. Bio's got to move in for the plant. He'll dash through the smoke. He might lose some life. He'll plant behind the bomb chassis for now, instead rotating in front of Red Wall. The coverage working out so far. Twist going big with those kills, but 2 members for West Garfield on low HP doesn't seem to matter so far. But Subarctic, he's been the biggest player for One Shot in these past couple rounds. He's in the 1v3, the 1v2, thankfully, thanks to his initial shot. Snake will instead peek around the corner and take him down. It's still a rough round for West Garfield overall, but whereas before, they failed in the late round, it was about their only real saving grace here.
And the one thing that was just that saving grace of West Garfield Park just had to be that coverage, of course, with the Finca play and still having just enough time to readjust and actually plant on the hard wall and still kind of get away with it. The one major issue, though, was, again, just that utility usage by West Garfield. They still had a huge issue with actually clearing out the person in blue without wasting both a couple of grenades here and there and also losing a life altogether. We still should not have had Swaylin even win a singular gunfight in that do or die spot, and even then the grenades did not find absolutely anything on that round, and it all just came down to the gunplay with that LMG. Snake just being able to do a lot of heavy lifting for his team. That still looked like it could have been a clutchful position for Subarctic in the 1 versus 3, despite the fact West Garfield just managed to find several different kills in the final 10 seconds.
And One Shot will hop to a completely separate site now, not wanting to try basement a second go around. They'll move to open area. But again, running things back just like they did before. They kept the same lineup between Basement 1 and Basement 2. Now, same open area lineup like we saw before. You can expect the Wamai playing outside of stock, Hilo in a flexible position to try to move around. Where things were problematic here was NVK playing inside of Archives. He got taken down by Snake just walking in through open area. There was nobody that was really able to counter him due to the placement of castle barricades and reinforcements, and NVK was a freebie waiting for Snake. We'll see if West Garfield do the same here, or if NVK will be a little more secure throughout the rest of this round.
Like the change by West Garfield Park, it seems like they actually want to go and approach and clear out this top floor, which was one of their biggest problems. Although they had a 5-on-3 off the bat because they just wasted a lot of their own time just sitting in kind of passive positions over near, Archives, for example, and just waiting for a very long time to only get that triple wall opened up and just ignore this top floor. They ended up losing to a flank, and also Kilo still playing near elevators as well to find a few kills here and there and just continually being able to move around on that Auric selection. So West Garfield actually trying to be more of a spearhead on this round is definitely a good changeup, and because of that, they can almost fully ensure they don't have to worry about that flank later in the round and can still apply tons of pressure inside of this actual extension on the first floor, but just from more than one direction this time.
NVK had the castle barricade ripped open from him, so probably not going to be able to play as aggressive as he was underneath that repellent. Barring also able to move into the building without much resistance. So for West Garfield, not much action between these two teams, but they've been able to find the map control they need so far to clear out this vertical, and with only half the round gone, still some time, thanks to this buck, to open up that floor, get a lot of this vertical that they need, and even if they open up this hatch too, cut off a nice rotation between NVK and the rest of the defense, or another avenue for the defense to sit if they want to try and make something happen in the late round. They spot Slippery down below as well, playing on marble at the moment. Nobody from West Garfield is biting just yet. They're playing this very slowly, even with the time starting to dwindle.
Oh, we've got about a minute 10 on the board. Still tons of vertical pressure being established. But I believe at this point now we actually have archives fully cleared out unless Kilo decides to move his position once again. Nope, he's currently just moving around in the highway area of the basement floor, essentially just kind of transiting around as much as he can. Still, that self-stall is kind of happening once again for West Garfield. Not finding a single opening duel just yet. Things could be quite problematic, but at least they're going to attempt to get that back wall opened up. But it seems like they're still having a bit of trouble trying to deal with those mute jammers. It finally gets opened up, but the flank from behind, NVK finds at least one. Silverheart gets killed off screen, but still West Garfield take the lead.
Dominantly, in fact. One kill going their way, but now it's only Swalen and NVK to hold out, and only one of them on the site. A nade lands right at NVK's feet, but basically tossed like an afterthought, not cooked whatsoever. It gives NVK the escape he needs. Swalen dropping down, one shot playing for the retake, as they've given up and ceded control of the site to West Garfield. NVK will start to pepper some shots into Twist, but it's Swalen to finish him off. He's able to work his way back into his initial position, but as Baring cuts down his teammate, he's got to look everywhere, and everywhere all at once, as he fights these multiple teams, or these multiple players, I should say. Bio goes down, but Baring and Valor have him in an effective crossfire. He's got to rethink this engagement, rethink these angles, go from somewhere else. He's got hard pings on one player, but there's another just to his right, spots him in front of the rotate, and it's Valor to finish him off. 2 rounds in a row for West Garfield. They've been able to mitigate some of their mistakes made in the first few rounds.
And because of at least ensuring they're not going to have to worry about a top floor flank, only that bottom floor push finally by one shot in the final few moments, it seemed to be like the aggression was just much more favorable towards West Garfield. They seemed a bit more aware of what vulnerabilities they had on that round and were still able to clean themselves up to a degree where they could still get that plant down, play with the man advantage, and just have a clean enough round to still have it as a win. Looks like for the final sight here, Carter, in the first half, we're going to have a reattempt at lockers and CCTV, and I'm hoping that cleaner style of play for West Garfield can be shown once again for those final executes, or else we will probably see a 4-2 split favoring one shot.
It came down to the wire between One Shot and West Garfield, so it wasn't all bad the one time they lost this site. It was only really Swalen who went down after taking down Baring. It was 1-for-1 on blue stairs, but they were still in a winnable position, just like they had been on the first time they defended basement. Here, though, we'll see what they change. Last time they ran the exact same setup, and so far, at least in operator selection and positions in the prep phase, not seeing a lot changing. Only thing right now is maybe Swalen won't be playing that blue stairs. He seems to be a little far back right now, so maybe they're rethinking that element of their positioning. Nope, no they aren't.
Does not seem so. But again, West Garfield so far, they haven't had the greatest track record with clearing out blue. They ignored it completely on round 1. And then the last time we saw this basement site in play, it took a very long time and a couple of bodies as well to actually remove Swalen from this position. So not the best place that West Garfield had been throughout this entire map. But again, at least starting off in the first minute, they should have little to no trouble at all just clearing out this top floor and beginning to allow those hatches to be opened up as well. Because again, the roam game, it's non-existent by one shot as of now. Again, it's just that light lurk we've been seeing time in and time through by them.
And that might be a little worrisome. It's obviously not usually within their play style. They like to play things a little bit closer to site, at least since the roster changes going into this stage. But they are letting West Garfield get this control pretty much for free, especially with the Thatcher on the board. You can't really rely on the Electric Claws doing a lot of time installing, forcing the team or the enemy team to bring a Maverick. They could open these up fairly quick and Sure, it's been problematic before, but if they can EMP those ADSs and those magnets on blue stairs, if they're a little bit more efficient in their utility clear, Swaylin is not long for this world, and he has to get aggressive, just like he did in that second basement defense. West Garfield will now finally start opening up some of these hatches once the electric claws were dealt with, but Slippery has one in his pocket this time. Maybe trying to K-trick the hatch. It'll go, but unfortunately the can opener is destroyed.
Oh, good timing there by Slippery. That's going to remove a key angle that could help you actually clear out anyone playing over near the gold vault and also kind of near that hallway aligned with it as well. We don't have anyone actually playing over near dirt as well, Carter, so it looks to be more of a funnel to try to push out this player inside of blue, which could be problematic because now NVK is not going to be as forced to go and move back into the site, which could allow both him and Swaylin to play in tandem, and it's still an absolute slugfest. Swaylin lands 2 big ones, and it's that 5-on-3 once again for one shot as they are still struggling with Swaylin up until now.
Yeah, Barring keeps one nade in his pocket. It might have cost Valor and Snake, but he still gets one in the end. But NVK playing behind server rack right now. Swaylin had some support, but with the Warden gone, he's the last line of defense before West Garfield Park can move into the site. They know his position, but all this utility is getting caught. So many magnets stacked up. He has all full of his faculties, and it's actually Barring the one blinded. Though NVK loses his sight for the moment, he'll start getting aggressive. Tangle with Biologic, but it's Barring that cuts him down. But it's still a 3v3. Still even, and Slippery has this C4, and Kilo has his smokes. West Garfield had the opportunity to bait out utility before, but here, they've got to deal with the C4 and these smokes as they come. The one misses. Another smoke going through. Will it land on Bio? Yes, it will. He's got to plant in that off spot. He can't make it work. He's losing his life. They have to go for the kills at this point, but Bio's too far away to make it happen. In danger of going even on the half, one shot retain their lead, and instead move 4-2 as they switch to attack.
And once again, it's just that slight positioning and util usage that really costed there for West Garfield. Again, despite the fact that they can basically just only solely focus over on the player in blue and maybe deal with somebody in the back of server, they just cannot deal with Swaylin before he already starts throwing punches, and they're clean knockouts. 2 kills with the Mossberg. Again, 5 versus 3 for one shot, and they still need to deal with NVK. Although he didn't find any kills, he still wasted tons of time, and again, that vital utility to try to deal with those magnets and ADSs and force back that smoke player as well. Having 3 toxic canisters in your back pocket with 20 seconds, that is such a huge positive for one shot. But they're not going to be able to rely on any of that utility I just mentioned because, like you mentioned, we're moving into that second half, Carter. Things completely changed up, and I mentioned briefly going into this game how we could definitely see 2 one-sided affairs, especially on the defense, unless we see high adaptability, especially by the side of one shot as they are now on that attacking side.
Well, they did take some time to adapt yesterday. There was basically the tale of 2 one-shots against Aqualix. The first half in which they could not drone a roam and clear one to save their lives. Then after the timeout where it looked like those first 3 rounds were not even a factor, that it was a completely different team, and they were able to clear out everything Aqualix had to offer. Unsurprisingly, West Garfield Park are playing a roam. Similar to Aqualix did yesterday, just of course some differences, but still a roam in general. We'll see which one-shot we get. Will it take them some time to heat up, or was that them just maybe throwing caution to the wind, and then after the timeout, that was the real one shot? We'll see what happens. They're bringing that Jackal just like they did yesterday to help on that full clear, to try and track some of these roamers around the site, and it looks like based on where they're entering around square, Twist might be the first one they tussle with.
Well, so far hasn't been spotted out just yet, but is playing right along the top hallway next to Janitor. Beautiful shot by Swaylin. Just like that, one of your key roamers is already gone at a really good time frame for one shot. Luckily, though, for West Garfield Park, Snake is not too far behind, but that slow reaction time in general is not allowing him to get that immediate trade, and with one shot just remaining quite patient for now, they could end up spotting out Snake and playing in just the right way to take care of him. Looks like they won't need a direct set of information to go kill him out, but at least Biologic is there on a quick response near Marble to at least keep things at a decent pace 4-3.
Yeah, some pretty sizable exchanges in the early round. Snake just barely getting robbed of that kill onto Swaylin, put him to 1 HP. That crosshair is just a little bit higher, a little more to the right, and he's able to survive. Still probably traded by member of one shot, but you don't force Bio to march up Marble Stairs to try and even things out. He did get the trade, but a Jackal in exchange for basically the entire roam, that was going to be his role anyway. He sacrificed himself to do it, but he's taken down Twist, he's taken down Snake, one of the only 2 C4s on the defense. Overall, this is a big win for one shot going into the latter half of this round, and it's West Garfield who now have to play out of this disadvantage.
And one huge thing to look at as well, because we saw such a heavy emphasis on the roam game, Carter, there are no ADSs, no magnets. It is going to be Grenade City still having 4 in the pocket of one shot and a minute to go. It just seems like West Garfield, especially being at the man disadvantage, they really are not going to have enough to deal with just this entourage of players stacking up, unless maybe the Vulcans can stall enough time. But even with 20 seconds in one Vulcan pack apiece, it still might not be enough, especially since that second one has been triggered a little bit on the early side for my own comfort.
Yeah, both are popped, and that will give it about the 30-second mark the opportunity for one shot to move in. Unless West Garfield can space out this utility enough, the first smoke grenade goes deep onto server. And even if those miss, they have the C4 from Valor, but the flashes start moving in, and so does Kilo with the diffuser. The smoke grenade missed. Oh no, it went just a little too far. He has the opportunity to plant. They'll use nades to cover and flashes as well, and Kilo gets away with highway robbery in round number 7. Baring uses his final grenade to cover his rotation over towards garage, or maybe just to stall any kind of drop or line of sight from anybody on this middle floor. But Subarctic is watching the blue door. He's got intel on him as well. With an LMG, he can easily hold this. NVK waiting for the retake, but he falls to the first engagement. Biologic cuts him down, and now Subarctic has to watch his back. As 2 members of the defense come forth, will he be able to react in time? Bio spots him, but it's Valor with the first kill. Subarctic takes down 2. Both the defenders retaking, and Baring's only got 5 seconds to make this work. SMG-11 in hand, but not enough time to make it happen. Slippery ends his suffering and moves the team up 5-2.
And it's something I mentioned earlier that was a huge problem there for West Garfield, especially on that roam game. All the way back in round 1, I mentioned for one shot their ability to play off of contact. West Garfield, they were just far too slow to actually allow that to happen, Carter. We saw that done by Biologic once we had Snake actually fall on the Mozzie pick, but Twist, despite having Snake playing on the exact same floor as him, he was basically isolated against several attackers. That's an immediate opening duel as a win for one shot, and because of that, they built off instant momentum. They found Snake as well, and although Bio may have killed one, it's like you had mentioned, it was on Swalen. He didn't really have any meaningful utility, and he already did his job by killing those 2 roamers off the bat and forcing Bio to retreat back to the site. And once that had happened, and because the util game again was just relatively poor by West Garfield, the plant went down. One shot could just play for numbers and time stall, making it almost a perfect round to say the least, starting off on their second half.
West Garfield won't even try basement a second go around, quickly switching to that middle floor. Maybe worried that their lack of preference to bring that Jaeger will cost them again on basement. They'll put Baring with the magnets this time, so they have some utility to burn those projectiles. And overall, it's not something dissimilar from what we saw One Shot do. They do have Valor in the site as the Maestro this time, so that's a little bit of intel maybe One Shot would have liked on their defenses that West Garfield will now have. But really not too much presence on that top floor. The right as I say that, Bio goes to join Snake upstairs, so a little bit more concerted than I thought previously. Twist actually getting some late shotgun holes beneath this window, but really overall, it's not at all dissimilar from what One Shot did.
Always enjoy watching those vertical holes being opened up, especially if one shot, miss a drone here and there. Don't fully spot them out. That could be a free kill for West Garfield Park, and that could be huge for them, especially since they're not really directly playing on this top floor. We might have caught one player in the background, just kind of near square, but besides that, it's a very light hold. And yeah, it was somebody up near square. That being Snake, he's going to catch Swalen in a bad spot, so he's not going to be able to deal any damage, especially in comparison to what he was able to accomplish on the Jackal last round. So that is a huge kill for West Garfield, especially since they don't have all that much pressure actually reliant on this top floor play.
Swalen and Snake, for both their teams, have been very active in the opening kills, a little bit more so. The opening duels, I should say. Not always winning them, but at least being active in that first engagement. Have both tried to be that kind of player for their respective teams. This time, Snake gets the better of Swalen, NVK, maybe to try to find a little bit of a weakness in West Garfield. Will creep into main lobby. There's a castle barricade in his way, unfortunately, so have to find some way to destroy that later on, and pretty much everyone from West Garfield is on the other side of that barricade, so nothing for NVK to find just now. Maybe Slippery will have some more luck with the skeleton key, but West Garfield, once they got that first kill, have retreated and are holding strong.
Seems to be renovating the top of CEO, trying to see if he can spot anybody out over near Archive. 70 seconds to go, and at least some of this room game over near the basement is still doing quite well for West Garfield. And if we see kind of replication of what we had last time where West Garfield, they were opening up triple wall, if that happens again for One Shot this time ago, and they kind of forget about this basement floor potentially being a problem, there is huge potential for a flank to happen, and that could even increase the advantage that West Garfield already have going in these final 50 seconds.
We've already seen how problematic a flank can be when both NVK and Subarctic tried to get one off, sometimes successfully, sometimes only slightly so, but both times it cost West Garfield dearly in their attacks and their executes. And now Snake, he's going in the exact same position we saw NVK go in. As Valor falls, spotted behind that bomb chassis, his role becomes ever oh so more important. One shot of probing, they're finding these weaknesses, and Slippery shuts him down. Snake completely spotted, read like a book on blue stairs, and as Subarctic moves on in, nobody can stop him, but there's some redundancy. Bio moving in as well. Are they watching this one? The Thermite reads it, and he's spotted by Slip. The two-piece shutting down the flank gets one shot match point.
And the gigantic thing there, Carter, had to be the patience overall. You had this great flank being attempted out by West Garfield, by Snake in particular, who already started West Garfield in the right direction. But even though the fact we had an Evil Eye on the board, tons of audio information, and almost everything going the way of West Garfield, even though things were equalized once the Mitro had actually died by the hand of Slippery, they jumped the gun. They got a little too trigger happy, and because One Shot were just waiting with great patience and holding those angles, expecting someone to wide swing, they were actually able to reap the rewards of that misplay and put themselves in basically in an unlosable position, now already up match point. Heading in around number 9, they've got to deal with the CEO defense, and that could honestly be the end of story at this point, Carter. Maybe the pseudo mind game of actually trying to go to bank here for West Garfield might have actually backfired, as they are not looking in all that well of shape.
I mean, we had some questions going into the day. Since that role swap, Bio moving to more of a support role, allowing Valor to come more into the fray, allowing Twist and Barring to get a little bit more active on the front lines. How is this going to affect West Garfield? And unfortunately for Bank, it doesn't appear all that much. Now, then again, One Shot played a very solid game yesterday, especially after that timeout and taking things seriously. So this isn't to completely nullify all of the improvements West Garfield have made. They still have a lot of potential to end in the top half of CL at a bare minimum, but at least here, it seems like either they haven't fixed all their problems on Bank, maybe still letting things slip away from them on their attacks, but more specifically for One Shot, this might just not be the map you want to play them on in Stage 1.
Seems like we got Snake once again, kind of on that make or break position. Heading down in towards blue stairs in case someone ends up walking in through dirt. May find that opening kill if they don't end up journeying up top of blue. But so far for One Shot, looks like they're going to opt to just play for that heavy window positioning and also work their way in through lobby, past ATM, and then trying to clear out gold. The only issue that was shown by West Garfield when they tried attempting the exact same thing was just the fact they took far too long just sitting inside of ATM and doing a whole lot of nothing except just wasting their drone potential and then basically forcing themselves to self-funnel. If we just see more volatility by One Shot in comparison to what West Garfield brought out when attacking this exact same site, there should be some pretty green pastures for them, especially now that Kilo has already found Valor in a bad spot, and basically your main set of denial for the plant is already gone in the first minute.
And now Barring's in a bit of a tricky spot. He's got Bio for coverage, so if anybody pushes up main stairs, he could be okay. Even with this wall opened up, Bio might not be able to move forward, but maybe he could provide some support on these angles. But Barring is trapped in a sea of utility if the defense wants to or the attack wants to allocate some to it. But John, I don't even think it's going to come to that point. They've taken down Bio pretty quickly once that wall was opened up, and now the defense has to start getting active on a site that doesn't exactly favor it. Swaylen spots Barring moving around inside. That's 3 kills compared to West Garfield 0 right now. And what are Twist and Snake to do? Twist is holding in the site, but Snake is down below. He's taken down the air jab. He spotted one in the main lobby as well, but with 1 minute and 10 seconds, One Shot can dedicate some time to taking him down. Twist gets the first glimmer of hope for West Garfield so far. Maybe Snake can grab the second firmly. Subarctic 14-3 right now, just around the corner, with far more bullets than Snake could even dream of having, and he's spotted and red, just like in the previous round. So what is Twist to do? Ace just to get the team your 3rd defensive win? That's a tall task for any player, especially one trapped in the middle of the site right now. And Slippery spots him with barely a care in the world. 7-2 for One Shot, and what seems to be their map pick, even though West Garfield were the ones that chose to go here.
It almost seemed, exactly, Carter, it just seemed a little bit off for West Garfield Park to want to pick this map, in particular after we saw such a brilliant showing by One Shot the day prior against One Shot. And it just seemed like on that last round in particular as well, Carter, it just seemed like the lineup in general just seemed a bit off. They didn't have any util, no ADSs, no magnets. The castle barricades were basically just paper walls at that point, and there was such a heavy reliance on that anchor game to sit right next to them, and also the player in gold as well having no util to help him out was easy pickings as well. Just nothing went well for West Garfield
No.
on that pick. And although we have seen a great changeup by that team in general over the past couple weeks during the first stage, it just seems like they still had those same constant mistakes that we saw time in and time out, even though they've had an incredible arc pardon, so far in this stage.
Well, I know, speaking of arcs, One Shot, all the way back in Stage 3 of last year, there were questions about their map pool. Do they play bank? Do they not play bank? I think today, a long few months after that, we can confirm, at least in Stage 1, this is not a map you want to take One Shot to. We'll see how they end up in their next series, but for now, we'll throw back to the analyst desk to break down One Shot's incredible victory over West Garfield.
Connor, all the credit to you. I should have stuck with my gut. I don't know why I flipped. One Shot was the call all the way. Was this pretty much what you envisioned happening?
Yeah, pretty much. Cookies was talking all big, like hyperbolic time chamber. They're going to be training. Oh my gosh. They're going to be so good on bank. This was a criminal map choice for the side of West Garfield Park. Maybe they saw something in the sort of somewhat weak attacks of One Shot yesterday. But as soon as you kind of remove the sample size of how they looked pre-timeout, and then when they kind of fixed their issues, weren't going for any cutesy stuff, really just went down to the nitty-gritty and played a simple game, they looked really good.
Well, Cookies, it was funny that Connor says focus on like One Shot's attack, looking at that, oh, let's bring them to that map. Well, it was One Shot's defense on an attacker-sided map that was just so good. And one of the things that we were discussing was they didn't have much of a roam, and it worked for them. And then West Garfield Park tried the roam, and it failed miserably.
Thing is, my theorem as to why West Garfield was going to actually have a chance in this game, which clearly did not happen, was that on paper the West Garfield players' archetypes and astrology signs are very similar to those of Aqualix. I mean, you could have expected it. We saw a lot of the same things. Roamers taking 1v1s against Swaylen on the roam clear. It's just today Twist was, I mean, just got folded the instant he took the fight. Same with Snake. That was probably his worst game of the stage. This was, and it's probably the worst, I guess, timing for that. But you also had Barring miss a smoke, he smoked on basement, and it's not like, oh my god, why is Barring on smoke? That's not a new thing. He's played smoke before. It's just like, I guess he didn't research his lineups. I guess they weren't in the hyperbolic time chamber. I guess they didn't even dry run this map since the last time they played it. I don't know, because I was disappointed. I got Brim. I'm sorry. You trusted me.
I
give
you know
good
what?
analysis.
I've learned my lesson, or at least I should have learned my lesson so far this stage, which was stop stealing notes from Cookies, stop listening to Cookies. CJ, you got it wrong, and now
I'm not trusting Miles teams anymore. How about that?
Now I've got it wrong. But you know what? Let's talk to Swaylen real quick, because man, they've got a lot to do today. I'm sure he wants to get this interview out of the way because they just got another match coming up. Swaylen, huge win for you guys. I gotta say, my first thought, first and foremost, back-to-back banks. You went up against an arguably better team in West Garfield Park and made it 7-2 this time. Did you take an already strong bank and just make it better?
Yeah, I guess in a way. We knew that like they like to get super aggressive like early on, so we really focused on slowing it down today and just kind of going like step by step.
One thing I noticed is you guys, I think you cleaned up on the entry kills. I think it was something like 7-2. Was that part of that cleaned up focus game of just kind of knowing what to do at all times?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. Sub, he was playing like lights out. It was crazy. He had like a 2.0 rating or something. So he was really like shining today. So that was really nice.
Was that part of the game plan to unleash Sub, or did he just have one of those days that he wasn't missing a single shot?
He's a crazy player, and then today he was saying like before he wasn't really feeling it, and then he goes out and he does that. So I don't know.
Oh man, I wish I could have those days where I'm not feeling it and then I play like that. But I won't take up any more of your time. I know you guys got a busy schedule right now. Good luck in your next match, and hey, maybe you and I will be talking then.
Thank you very much. Hopefully.
Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, let them get right to it. You know what? We're gonna flip to this quick break. Well, it's gonna be.
I wanted to say one thing. To say one thing.
Hey, your show,
CJ,
Connor,
you were hating on Twist. Unfortunately, his internet was out, and he was actually at the Beast Coast headquarters playing that game. So
Surf seat. He was in surf seat, by the way.
he did not channel the NAL surf, unfortunately. But
He looked like he was playing on surf settings and he wasn't used to it or something. I don't know. It just utterly disappointing
Mhm.
from West Garfield. I'm so disappointed. My day's ruined.
Okay, well, what we're going to do right now is we're going to have a bit longer of a break, just to give the boys on One Shot a little more time to regroup, recollect for the next matchup, because when we come back, they'll be taking on Game and Gladiators.